I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do tonight's podcast, but I'm giving it a try. Um, so I have two brothers, and I get to be the only girl, and I'm the baby. Somebody had to get the gig. Um, it came with some perks. Sometimes it didn't. That's a longer story, maybe for another podcast. And so my brothers were born about a year apart, and everything they did together up to a certain age. Almost, my mom used to say that they almost looked like twins initially when they were babies, being close in age. They looked pretty close. It was kind of hard to tell them apart. But no two brothers look or act the same way. Over time, Dad was no longer, I think, to consider. They have very little in common. And so at some point from our childhood, early childhood to about our teens, preteen years for the three of us, some things changed in the family dynamic. The introduction of another family member, some conflict came with that, serious conflict that completely disturbed the what little harmony we had in the family nucleus. And from then on, it was pretty much kind of downhill. Some strained relations. I mean, there's still some love in the family, but it was never the same. Till about the time I turned 18, I joined the Navy. I left the funny farm, and my brothers remained because they had jobs, and they chose to stay in what they thought was the security of being close to home. In my case, I chose the complete opposite. Sometimes the security is a false sense, and really is. And tonight's podcast is not about security. I will talk about that at some point here pretty soon. But before we get to the real sense of security in our lives, there's some things that we have to do. And I explained to you the case about my brothers. They are estranged, and in the worst way. I mean, one middle brother has no communication with us. I think I was never part of their conflict. They had a conflict within them, something that I consider that was probably serious at the time, and they parted ways. And the middle brother moved on, and big brother married. He moved on as well, but he married a few years ago, and marriage is really new to him. He was a lifetime bachelor. I've been married and divorced, so that's not a mistake I'm willing to make again. Nothing against marriage. It just probably wasn't the thing for me, and I was married for a long time. And for him, it's just pure bliss because he has a good partner, it takes care of him and all that stuff, things that he just didn't enjoy before in the relationship. So marriage is kind of beneficial to him. And so his wife, and I have great respect for her, did something that I do my best not to do anymore. And I try to practice non-interference. I don't know if I mentioned Wayne Dyer here before, but he used to say that unless they're about to kill themselves, just flat out jump off a cliff or take poison, do something really harmful and terrible, or commit a crime, something, stay out of it. You could be a spectator. I mean, you're sitting, if you got the front row seat to the spectacle that is somebody else's family dynamic, then sit back and enjoy it. You've got your own problems to worry about. You do you. So out of conventional wisdom, she told me in recent months that she had reached out to the brother who doesn't talk to anybody. He's a mystery. We don't know if he's married, if he has children. We don't know. Even his neighbors don't know. We know where he lives. But there was another family matter where we needed to reach him legally for a legal matter, for the sale of old property and so forth. And we needed to get a hold of him, and he was not cooperative. So there's a long story that goes with that. Not really relevant necessarily to tonight's podcast, but he is really good. I'm gonna address two things tonight. But the 10 transformational lessons tonight's lesson is probably the biggest one, because this is where the security I was just talking about, you're sticking to what you know, conventional wisdom, the things I've done this up until this age, and I'm doing pretty good. That's all a lie. You're not doing pretty good. You're hanging on to one method, and it doesn't work, but you're too scared to let it go. Oop, I just blurted it out. But let me get back to the story. She sent him a text because she has his phone number. He doesn't even take my calls, and he and I at one point kind of close, but kind of touch and go. None of us were really so close like some other siblings in other families, where we always calling each other and being emotionally and supportive and all that. This is not my family at all. In fact, we're all pretty much a band of individuals, and somehow we just kind of converge at some point, probably at meal times, and that was still touch and go. And so when you're older, you want to kind of have the relationship with your siblings that you didn't have when you were younger. I see that a lot. I wasn't exactly trying to do that myself, but the brothers, for some reason, they have something a little bit more common. So I could see why the eldest wanted to patch up that old rift. It's been 20 some odd years, and he was ready to heal. He was really ready to reach out, and the other brother was not receptive. It happens. It doesn't have to turn out the way you envision it. Maybe there's something to be learned here. So middle brother has it all set up. He's retired from the military. He's got, I think, 2 vehicles and a house. He's doing well. He's not living in a shelter somewhere. He's not downtrodden. I know he's not doing drugs or abusing alcohol. He has friends. He just doesn't communicate with us. And there's something about family pain sometimes that we kind of drag with us, and it kind of prevents us from being able to proceed in the next step in life, or to at least have a harmonious relationship with the people that you grew up with. And I've come to the conclusion that of all 3 of us, he's probably the one. Well, I was first, but I didn't get into any major fights. I was the only girl, and I left home, and that pissed a lot of people off. It was shocking, and even to me, but once I did it, I broke free. I was like, this is pretty cool. It's a big world out there. But tonight is not about my story. So the brother who's no longer talking to us, he seems to be at peace with how he lives his life. And I had to do some serious thinking, because the eldest, he's still kind of obsessed that he wants to patch up, and he wants that relationship. I think a lot of that came from my sister-in-law, particularly because she's kind of a nurturing person, and kind of, she comes from a big family. They got tons of siblings, and the siblings, everybody has children, and the complete opposite of us. We have no children. None of us, except for one, has a spouse. And the rest of us don't continue that way. When we are all alive, but we don't have this kind of a lifestyle. We don't have big family thing going on, and so we don't have that big support system like she does. So she sends him a text, trying to build a bridge. And I know if you're listening to the podcast and you're not coming over to my podcast video companion on YouTube, I'm making quotation marks, air quotes with my fingers, I guess is that what they call them. She's meddling, and I've meddled. I'm sure you've had meddled too. Like you think, I can see where they're going wrong. Yes, they probably do. Like I said, unless it's an emergency, it's life and death, stay out of it. And she told me that he promptly got her text message. She's been conciliatory. I already know her demeanor, and he's a straightforward guy. I know my brother. I mean, he doesn't talk to us, but I know his temperament, and he may be quiet, but he doesn't want you around. He's just going to tune you out, and he tuned her right out, blocked her number. I laughed. I just laughed. I didn't tell her, just stay out of it. I realized that, you're seeing it close to home, but it's not personally affecting you. It's affecting her husband, my other brother. But his state of mind is what I'm concerned about. Is that you push and push and it doesn't give back at all? Then there's something that you need to learn from this. And my recent visit with them, my older brother said, do you want to swing by his place? We know where he lives. It's a whole long, ridiculous story. He's trying to flush the guy out. So he would talk to them and he won't. And I have to laugh because it's like, he's not budging. I don't think it's a mental health factor. I think it's an emotional factor. Whatever it is that hurts him, he's hanging on to it, but he's adapted to it. Where his kung fu is pretty strong. I have to say most people break. They really crack hard when they're alone. Maybe he too discovered that being alone is not such a terrible thing. I'm not advocating that you should just leave your family, just don't love them, don't respect them if you have a good relationship. But when you discover that being you by yourself it really is a transformative experience. Being comfortable on your own skin. I'm trying my best to see if I were in his shoes. No, I don't want to go trespassing on his property and peek through the windows to see if I can catch him. Neighbors don't even know what his voice sounds like. He keeps to himself. I know he probably has a very rich and enjoyable life. I wish him that much, even though he's not reaching out to us. Because isn't that the purpose? The joy that I always talk about is from the inside, and it expressed inside comes out from within you, and it shows up in your regular real life, the normal life physical world results. It's when you're miserable and you don't like being alone, you're always seeking your friend's company. You go out, whatever it is you do, drinking or going out to eat every week, but you're kind of miserable just the same. And when they're out of town and they're doing other things and they're pursuing other interests and you're by yourself, you're feeling really icky. That's not a good state of mind. So I figured that the brother who's estranged, he learned somehow to let go. And tonight's transformative lesson is about letting go. I love him. I kind of miss him, but I miss maybe the whole 5-minute conversations we ever had. He and I were not really, I wouldn't say not close and not far apart. I would just say that our relationship was relatively cordial and it was casual. On occasion, we picked on each other like siblings do. But he and I were probably the closest, and the mindset that we were adventurers. I'm the disruptor of the family. It's something that I had to learn. Him, the next one up in the center, he was kind of the one who was always physically active, the athletic. He too joined the military services. And the eldest was a complete opposite. He was more the intellectual guy. He kind of followed in the father's footsteps. And I think later on in life, I found out that he wanted to do some of the things that the rest of us did in our lives, things that are, outdoorsy, went hunting, or I wanted to be military, something that was active, something that, not music. We came from a musical background. So some of us did not follow that career path full time for many years. I did for a bit, and the other brother did as well, but mostly we spent it pursuing the things that we wanted to do, which had nothing to do with music. And the eldest has been over 30 years. He's been a musician. He's already reached the retirement age, but he's still playing. I know that's where that's what he knows. But that reunion that sometimes I prayed for, that the brothers would reunite and maybe I can join in and we can maybe enjoy a different stage in our sibling relationship would flourish, has not come to fruition. And so I no longer wish it, because by wishing it, I'm keeping each one of us from achieving what we want. So we don't need each other to work on ourselves, not necessarily. And so I have to give some credit to the estranged brother because his will is really powerful. How long can you stay angry at somebody? I realize it's a grudge. I'm sure we go from, I've held grudges. I used to do that a lot. I ruminate about junk. It just fills your brain and just heart with a lot of junk. And you just can never move them, and you cannot move on. So you're always miserable and angry. So I figure this guy, I know this guy, he used to be my brother, but he's the guy that who was formerly known as our brother. And he is his own person, and he does what I hope brings him some personal joy in developing himself. And I cannot take that away from him. It doesn't matter what I want. So it's another, so that's one of the part of the lessons that I'll talk to you about is letting go. The eldest brother probably still thinking about him, but you should let him go. Sister-in-law wanted to text him to try to patch him up. Let that go. Don't just step away. Just sit down in the front row and don't interfere. Because sometimes that's what it's meant to be. We're supposed to grow. You can't take it anything we have here physically with us. I believe that our collective consciousness, that on a spiritual realm, we take that with us. The lesson, whatever the mission, if you want to call it that, or the purpose that we came here. And I believe that we came here voluntarily. Totally impeaching every time that I've said to my mother, I did not ask to be born. I probably did select this. I'm glad that I did. Really glad that I got to be me. I've done extraordinary things. I just never give myself credit for them. And so this one estranged brother, he's a total stranger now. I had someone that we grew up with. It could be no different than a neighbor's kid. I don't know them that well personally. I don't know their lives intimately. I may bump into them. People from high school, I bump into a few, and it was friendly and cordial, but do I want to hang out with those guys? No, because they live nearby each other and they form cliques, and that's their little thing. And they probably have high school reunions like every weekend. And they hammer drinks and they go get tacos, whatever it is that they go to the beach. I never had that relationship with them, so I don't miss that interaction. I'm invited though, and so I treated in the same way as I would, my brother's in the same category. He's the guy that I knew once. I knew intimately well, but then he became a mystery, and then he became whatever he is today. Not a bad person. I think he has a good heart, really sensitive. And I think to some things, his life hurt him, and he had to be able to move on somehow. Have to sever some ties, something to someone and somewhere in particular, to help him develop his peace and hopefully joy. And so with the eldest brother, I'm trying to break him into this kind of thinking a little bit, and so tonight's theme is about letting go, because it is the hardest thing to do. You can decide, you can know, like I discussed about being aware that whatever you think becomes reality, and it does. And you're aware of your own dissatisfaction of your results. And then you have it goes back to the awareness of just knowing that you have to change how you think. And when we practice some level of compassion, it has to be internalized. And also when we treat ourselves well, we treat others well. So the best way to treat this is to let him live his life. And then we can work on the mastery of our lives individually. We were not born all together in one packet, came from the same mother, same father, but there's no guarantee, and there's no qualified standard written anywhere that should make us want to always be together. Some families, they do, like I said, to reiterate that point, they do, that works for them. I don't have anyone that I can pick up the phone and call and can you explain to me, a situation that I'm going through? Can you help me? My parents did not live my life, and they did not experience my experiences. And I don't have a common frame of reference. And both folks are gone, been gone for a while. And They were not people that you could just pick up the phone and ask. You could ask for some advice, but it came down to relationships and love or marriage, and it got kind of tricky there. So that I never did do that often. Career, hardly. I've done things that my mother never did. I could even hope to do. And if I became a better version, that's great. I'm not supposed to be a better version of her, but did I live a better life? Yes, I have lived indeed a better life. I haven't sacrificed as much. I haven't suffered as much compared to her life. And she came from a totally different generation. So I have to always keep that in mind. If I ever held any grudges, like I said, don't hang on to stuff where the folks were harsh on you. And you're thinking, you're going through that situation right now when, she was kind of bleed, but when I was at 15, but today at 37 or 40 or 50, you're somehow that you were conditioned to be prepared for that moment in time where you have to execute some act, self-defense or of changing your mind and becoming a better person. So I can't go into specifics because it could be anything, whatever it is you're going through. Hopefully you pick through everything that I'm speaking about and apply it to your own life's journey. And so there's still, it's like Korea, the Korean War. It's not even a truce. It's not even a truce. It's they're at a standstill, and there's really nothing else. There's really nothing else to discuss beyond that. When you let go, it's an abandonment. Like you just take out the past. Hanging on to the past is bad, but you can go back and reminisce about the times when you were successful and the times when you were happy, and you can go back into achieving that feeling that you had at the time of achievement and happiness and accomplishment. And you can carry that feeling with you daily. I know it's hard to keep the happy hormones flowing, and that's what the brain is for. And you're supposed to be regulating your own emotions. So rather than taking shortcuts, you should be striving to always manage emotions and know they can bring back to whatever place you want to select that brings you back into a center point where you can focus, and then you can relaunch whatever it is you're doing. So that could be for school, marriage, money, anything, getting a promotion. You always need a point to start from or to refocus. So at this stage for the 10 transformational lessons, you're going to have to let go. And it could be, you can start an experiment, just a little trial time. You could do a week between now and the next podcast, and you can test it out. Tell me how it works. And you can try it with anything. If you want to get good grades, there's something you need to improve in particular, then just write it down. Like I told you before, I don't want you to write 50 times every day, in cursive, what it is that your manifestation, your affirmation is going to be. What I want you to do is actually select something that you can improve and target that specifically for a week, just Monday through Friday. I'm not even expecting you. We'll do it 5 business days, not the 7 days, calendar days. Just do it and then take the break for the weekend and then reassess where you are. Any of these lessons, you can do it for a week, 5 days. And on the weekend, you can take some notes along the way. I told you before, get a journal, a book that you really like a lot, a notebook, and a special ink pen. Don't you get a pencil? I'll explain that in a minute. Letting go could be a list of things that could be attitudes, and they are attitudes and practices, which means that they're habits. They're things that you have learned over a long period of time, even a short period of time, and your brain liked it because it seemed to sync with it and it enjoys that activity, but it gets you into trouble, but you want to get out of it. So you write it down. If you want to make a list for this week, select what it is you want to let go. It could be an object. It's probably the easiest thing. Um, I personally have had to let go in the past 6 months in a hurry, sometimes without, I won't say warning. I'm just saying with a very short amount of time, I've had to make a decision of letting go, even some family heirlooms, because they're just not going to make it into the next stage of my life. They're not going to be passed down to children. Not going to put it and ship it to 10 states over to a family member to have. It's just not worth it. It's part of the past. It's lived. So letting go could be a thought, something you hang on from another relationship that's hurting you, but you're still there chewing at you. You may want to write it down. I always do X, and I wanted to stop. Just be really honest. And this is just for you. And you work on that each day, each of the next 5 days, and finding ways to just purge it from your life. So letting go means to abandon, but letting go also means forgiveness. So this is twofold. If it's a person or a thought, or it's a hurt, the forgiveness goes in 2 ways. It goes to you, and it goes to someone else. And this is not negotiable. It cannot be negotiable, because if you don't let go, then that weight is going to continue to drag you and prevent you from achieving what you want to do. So the only way to break away is to just abandon it. Just cut it. Just cut it out. So you choose what it is that you want to work on. And like I explained to you about the brothers, there's no loss. There was a family, and then there was no family, and then there were individuals, and each individual has a responsibility to develop, to grow. So we can't take it with us. None of the stuff we're going to let go. If it's physical and you got too much junk, you'll feel so much better. Maybe somebody else is at a stage where they don't have anything. They haven't quite figured out how to get stuff. And when you give it away or you sell it cheap, you're just going to bless them. You're going to advance them to the next level. And then they're going to get that confidence and that little joy and that confidence that they can move up. I have furniture now. I feel better. I can sit. I can eat at a table. You have an old car. I can drive to a job. This mobility is really important. So think about how what you let go can become a gift. And if you look at bad stuff, you made it bad. But if it's anything else, if you let go, you should be able to benefit other people with it. So just give that some thinking. So don't feel bad about the brothers. Don't feel bad about people who fight and become estranged and all that. It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere, even in friendships. People not born and raised together, it happens all the time. People change because they're supposed to change. They're supposed to grow. And they can't come with you. The furniture cannot come with you when you die. Again, I'm telling you, I really have a strong reasoning behind this, that our consciousness is the only thing that's going to absorb everything you do here. And it's the only thing we get to take back with us, whatever it is we come from, back to the collective. It's a fun ride, but you really have to respect, there's rules, universal rules, and how to play this game. And there are earthbound rules that you have to obey. There aren't that many, but you really have to mind how you develop your life on this earth. So measure carefully and write that list. If you only have like one thing that's really pestering you, that you really know that some people maybe have pointed it out to you, you may want to change it, but it is probably for your benefit. Take a look, start to be objective, and write down what it is that you want to purge, and just let it go. And when you let go, you forgive. When you tell someone you forgive them, you have to let it go. You have to be sincere. You let go. You don't come back 5 years from now and you rehash that. Yes, I'm talking to you women, because I've done it, and there's no closure. The closure happens. You don't have to have an explanation why. and something happened, something hurt you. It's done. It's how you receive it. It's how you respond to it. So the only way we can heal and we can grow and become better and happier is by letting go. And by letting go means, again, I keep saying it, you have to forgive. It's hard to forgive because we want to be angry, but spend that energy from anger and shift it into positive. I think I learned something from that bad experience. What was it? Anything. Pay attention. Pay attention. Don't open yourself up to disappointments. Have an expectation that what you do is going to be successful, and people around you don't want you to succeed. They're going to show you. They're going to try to put you down. In particular, when you're known to have a grudge or have a problem with another person or with your own behavior or something. Even there are people that are going to criticize you, they're not going to give you a positive reinforcement so that you can hear it and you can get more inspired to change. So just be mindful to these things. You cannot control the outside, but you can control the inside of your head. And I want to leave it at that. Pretty succinct tonight. I went from coughing up a lung to the waterworks and sneezing and all that last week. That was pretty nasty. I blame it on Canada because I did not have this allergy thing when I went into Alaska. I want to talk about the cruise real quick. The videos, except for the one on Juneau for the whale watching, I don't know what happened there. I did something stupid with my footage, and I backed up some files, and it was really difficult to get that video compilation ready for upload. I'm working on it, but everything else is in the Skagway, the hike to the glacier. That was actually quite a challenge. I was not expecting to be done. To be able to make it, the whole group made it. That was the first group that actually made it to the top of the summit to actually reach the glacier all season, according to the guides that we had. Very knowledgeable about plant life and wildlife. We did not spot any wildlife, so people asked me, did you see any bears or moose or anything? We saw nothing. We saw bear claws on a tree. I think I took a picture of that as part of one of the films on my YouTube channel, In the Pursuit of Joy podcast on the road. And that was interesting. It was a good objective view of how bears can get you, but we did not see any. No snow up there, hardly any. That was a hard climb. That was the hardest hike I've done, to be honest. And I was pretty spent. When I managed to get back to the ship, my hip flexors were like, what was your problem? My feet were crying. The descent from the glacier was harder than the climb. And because you're working the muscles differently. And I felt every single inch of my body, which is good. It's a good thing. Those guys climb up that summit every day because they do tours. So you can imagine how in Zen they are with the land and the layout of the land, and how well they know that those, how they get up there. They have some really nicely set up paths. The halfway point is pretty flat. There aren't that many ups and downs. It gets more technical after that. They have like an outhouse there. So, and those guys made us like a bunch of sandwiches to eat and gave us candy bars and we had plenty to drink for energy. So it was about 7.5 hours, including the walk from the port, from the cruise ship to downtown, to across town where there's another train station, and that train station takes you to Rocky Point, which is the place up top of the mount, with this. It's like 14 miles up. It takes about 45 minutes. So they're probably going about 35 to 45 miles an hour, and the views are amazing. And these are really nice train cards, and they have some snacks on the way back, as most of us were pretty tired and I was hungry. And some people were asleep, and that's not unusual after that hike. They took naps on the way back. That's another 45 minutes. And I got to run around Skagway a little bit, got a local treat, and then I dragged myself back to the ship. And I tried to have dinner. I think maybe I don't think I posted anything on food reviews yet. Not much for food on this cruise ship. I don't want to be critical, but I wasn't excited about the food. The food was good for the food court. It was great. There was variety. It's going to a buffet. It's included in the cruise price. I did one specialty dining. It was Italian, and I could barely even taste the food. And that was the same evening following the hike. I should have known better. I just remember that I had fish. I had fish and some polenta, and the pasta was to die for, though. I should have had the whole plate full of that. I would have been happier. And I did not eat my dessert. It sat. I brought it back to my stateroom, and that's how tired. I just had enough. In retrospect, if you do something like that on a cruise ship, and you're pretty tired, do room service. I did when I tweaked the old ankle and heel injury that I had a few years ago. It's heel, but it's a soft tissue injury. You cannot win with soft tissue. Bones grow stronger where they break, not soft tissue. And so I pretty miserable like the first day at sea. I stayed in my cabin. It wasn't a great sacrifice because mainly I stayed in bed. Cabin attendant brought me a big bucket of ice, and I made myself got a plastic bag and propped my leg up, and then I watched movies I haven't watched in a long time. Some I've never seen. So I was really grateful for that sea day. And I got room service. I ate, it doesn't matter what I ate. I had burgers and fries. Their burgers are pretty good on this particular ship. And I got away with that. I usually don't eat meat that often in the same week. And I got better 2 days later. So when we went into Skagway, and the 2 nights before, I reluctantly had to choose an activity in Skagway because we were going to spend there about 10 hours. I had to make the best of it. And it was hard to decide what I wanted to do in Skagway, Alaska. Beautiful place. So I ended up doing the hike, the White Trail. Rail car ride was pretty exciting. It's just a nice way to get up there. So all in all, we did about maybe about 5 plus 6 miles altogether, combined walking to the trains and the actual hike, and walking through town to get to the train station. So it was a good hiking day. But I didn't want to do anything else after that. It was physical. And then we went into Victoria, Canada, and beautiful place, but the ship pulled in so late in the day that we were losing daylight. I'm trying to get that footage for Butcher Gardens. It's the one excursion that I signed up for, and the butterfly garden. We should have spent more time there. I felt a little cheated. They should have been able to flip it on its head, and the tour could have been reversed, in my opinion, that we could have started at the gardens first with daylight, and then the butterfly gardens is open just for us. It's like a private self-tour, and they have guides there if you want, that people walk around that can explain about the butterflies and everything else there. But that place could have been open afterwards on the way out, because it's inside of a building, so you don't have to worry about it's a daylight or it's at nighttime. So it got pitch dark, so we pretty much got to see the gardens for about an hour's worth of decent daylight for photography and all that. And the gardens are beautifully decorated with lighting and all that. So it's a beautiful place to be in, but it felt rushed because then it's 2 hours, and once nighttime falls, I can only take so many pictures and video. They turn out really well, but after a while, I just kind of walked around just to see what else I can admire. And then by 9:30 p.m., I was done. Most of us were coming back to the bus, and by 9:45, thankfully, everybody decided to get back on the bus. The people are still out there walking. There was nothing to see after hours. I thought it was kind of a it wasn't a washout, but it could have been set up a little bit differently. But I'm happy all just the same to have had a chance to go there. I went there with a full-blown allergy episode. It started as soon as we hit Canadian waters. I woke up sneezing that day. Imagine that. And we didn't pull in until about 4 or 6 8:30, and that was an hour earlier than the captain said he would be pulling in. And so and in retrospect, that I don't regret booking it, but yeah, I felt personally that we needed more time on the gardens where there was more daylight. But that butterfly garden, that's pretty neat. I need to make a trip just exclusively for the gardens, so that I can stay in town for a couple of days and then report from there and get um, much better footage then. Had this ant farm. If you haven't seen the ant farm footage, it's on YouTube, a little bit on YouTube, but I put it on the Instagram, the Emanuele Business Solutions Instagram. I don't have one for the podcast because I don't have enough hands and feet and eyeballs and to have that many social media accounts. So I stick to the business account. I do consulting, self-improvement, mentoring, and that sort of thing. And there's a new thing that I reported from this week before I go. It's a separate playlist on my YouTube channel. I call it the working from the goal. So I have a friend who took up boxing about a little bit over a year ago, and was rather transformative for her. And so they had a smoker, and I finally got to see her fight. I did before, but not to this extent. So some great fighters there of all ages and from all walks of life. And if you want to know about mind and body connection, and how you work through some of these principles that I talk about, watch the boxers. So go to my playlist, working from the goal. I will try to do my travels to try and interview, or at least observe people and working in their element. And boxers are a great example of how we have to navigate through all these conflicts, the tactics, the strategy, and how not to get hurt as much, but how to be able to block and to be able to punch the right time. And it's just really fascinating. And I want to thank the guys from Winchester Boxing and Fitness. I know they work really hard to help all the students forge their dreams. But people work hard. They work hard for their fitness and for their athleticism. And let me see if I can get maybe some other type of athletes to feature in my travels. So this is Winchester, Virginia, by the way. And beautiful area. And maybe later on I have some historical sites. Let me see what I can put in my travel bag for this week. July is around the corner, and I got a wide open schedule, so you never know what I'll be up to next. I want to thank you for joining me in my podcast. I'm moving more episodes to SoundCloud, because it seems like in Spreaker I have no following for some reason, but I do publish directly to SoundCloud. You never know, I may get out of Spreaker and then stick with SoundCloud. We'll see how the platform works. If I like it better, then I'll stick to that, because I'm not going to publish in 2 podcasting channels. So with that said, remember, let go this week. Choose something you want to practice and let go. And I will see you next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. This is in the Pursuit of Joy podcast. Thank you. I'm grateful for you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Here's the other thing. This is also an educational moment for federalists. We should trust the people in states that have different policies, different approaches